Sarah's hands trembled as she counted the crumpled bills under the table. $23. Her last $23 until next Friday. Her 6-year-old son, Lucas, tugged at her sleeve. "Mommy, I'm so hungry. My tummy hurts." 7-year-old Emma whispered, "Can we please eat tonight?" Sarah's eyes burned with tears she refused to let fall. Then the diner door exploded open. 5 massive bikers walked in, leather cuts, chains, skulls on their patches. The words "Hell's Angels" stretched across their backs. Every customer in that diner stopped breathing, and the biggest one was staring directly at Sarah. Before we continue, I want to ask you something. Have you subscribed to this channel yet? Drop a comment below and tell me which city and country you're watching from. I read every single comment, and I want to personally thank you. Now stay with me until the very end of this story. What happens next will stay with you forever. Sarah Mitchell hadn't eaten in 3 days. She kept that secret locked inside her chest like a stone she swallowed every morning. Her children didn't know. They couldn't know. A mother's job was to protect, not to burden. "Mommy, are we really going to eat at a restaurant?" Emma asked, her small voice carrying more hope than any 7-year-old should need on Christmas Eve. "Yes, baby." Sarah squeezed her daughter's hand. "I promised you, didn't I?" Lucas walked on her other side, his thin jacket barely keeping out the brutal Pennsylvania wind. Like a real restaurant with menus and everything. With menus and everything. Sarah felt her purse against her hip. $23. She'd counted it 14 times since leaving the motel. $23 to feed 2 hungry children on Christmas Eve and then somehow survive until her next paycheck. The diner appeared through the falling snow. Warm light spilled from its windows. Sarah stopped walking. "Mommy." Emma looked up at her. "Why'd you stop?" Sarah stared at that golden light. For a moment, she couldn't move. Her feet felt frozen to the sidewalk, not from cold, but from fear. What if it's too expensive? What if I can't pay? What if they see right through me? "Mommy." Sarah forced her legs to move. "Sorry, sweetheart. Let's go get warm." The bell above the door chimed as they entered. Warmth hit Sarah's face like a blessing. The diner buzzed with conversation, laughter, the clatter of dishes. Families sat together at booths, sharing meals, sharing joy. Christmas music played softly from somewhere she couldn't see. Emma gasped. "Mommy, look! They have decorations! Can we sit by the window?" Lucas pointed across the room. "Please," a waitress approached. Mid-50s tired eyes name tag, reading Donna. "3," Donna asked, already grabbing menus. "Yes, please." Sarah heard how small her own voice sounded. Donna led them to a booth near the back. Not by the window. Sarah didn't argue. She was grateful just to be inside. The children slid into the booth, and Sarah sat across from them. Donna dropped 3 menus on the table. "I'll give you a few minutes." "Thank you." The moment Donna walked away, Lucas grabbed his menu and opened it wide. "Wow, they have cheeseburgers and chicken fingers, and—" "Lucas, quiet voice," Sarah said automatically. Emma opened her menu more carefully. "Mommy, can I have pancakes? I love pancakes." Let me look at everything first." Sarah opened her menu. Her eyes moved down the list of items, and with each price she read, her heart sank deeper. Cheeseburger, $12.99. Chicken fingers basket, $11.50. Pancake platter, $9.99. Kids meal, $8.99. Her throat tightened. She did the math instantly. 2 kids' meals would be almost $18. Add tax, add tip. She'd have nothing left. Nothing for the bus tomorrow. Nothing for the emergency she knew was coming. "Mommy." Emma was watching her. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, sweetheart." Sarah closed her menu. "Nothing's wrong." Lucas bounced in his seat. "I want the cheeseburger. Can I have the cheeseburger?" "Me too," Emma said. "With extra pickles?" Sarah's hands found her purse under the table. Her fingers touched the folded bills inside. $23. That's all that separated her children from hunger tonight. She made a decision. "How about you two share a kid's meal?" She kept her voice light. "It comes with so much food, fries and a drink and everything." Lucas's face fell. "Share. But I'm really hungry, Mommy." "I know, baby, but why can't we both have one?" Emma asked. "Is it because of money?" Sarah's chest constricted. Her 7-year-old daughter, already understanding things no child should have to understand. "The portions are very big here," Sarah lied. "You'll see. You'll have plenty." Emma studied her mother's face. Then she nodded slowly. "Okay, Mommy. We can share." Lucas opened his mouth to protest, but Emma kicked him under the table. He went quiet. Donna returned, pad and pen ready. "What can I get you folks?" Sarah's voice came out barely above a whisper. "We'll have 1 kid's meal, please. The chicken fingers." "Just one. They'll share." Donna's eyebrow raised slightly. She looked at the 2 children, then back at Sarah. "And for you, just water for me. I'm not hungry." The lie burned in Sarah's mouth. Donna paused. Her pen hovered over the pad. Something passed across her face, recognition maybe, or pity. Sarah couldn't tell which was worse. 1 kid's meal, 1 water, coming right up." Sarah watched her walk away. Her hands were shaking now. She pressed them flat against her thighs under the table, willing them to stop. "Mommy?" Lucas's small voice. "Why aren't you eating? I had a big lunch, remember?" Another lie. She hadn't eaten lunch, or breakfast, or dinner last night. Her stomach had stopped growling yesterday. Now it just ached, a dull, constant pain she'd learned to ignore. Emma reached across the table and touched her mother's hand. "You always say that? You never eat with us anymore." "Emma." "I'm not stupid, Mommy. I know we don't have money." Sarah's heart cracked. Right there in that booth. She felt it break like ice on a frozen pond. "Baby, we have enough. We always have enough." "Then why do you cry at night when you think we're sleeping?" The diner door slammed open. The sound cut through the restaurant like a gunshot. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Forks froze halfway to mouths. Every head turned toward the entrance. 5 men walked in. They moved like a single unit heavy boots, striking the floor in unison. Leather vests covered their massive frames, black leather with patches symbols, words Sarah couldn't read from across the room. Then she saw the back of the first man's vest as he turned. Hell's Angels. A skull with wings. Flames. The words Pennsylvania Chapter beneath. Lucas pressed against Sarah's side. "Mommy, who are those men?" "Shh." Sarah pulled both children closer. "Don't stare." But she couldn't look away either. The bikers were enormous, not fat solid, like they'd been carved from stone and wrapped in leather. Beards, tattoos, chains hanging from their belts. They moved through the diner with an ownership that made the air itself feel heavier. Other customers shrank back. A mother at a nearby table pulled her child into her lap. An elderly man lowered his eyes to his plate. The bikers took the large corner booth. They didn't ask for permission. They simply sat. "Hey," one of them shouted toward the counter. "5 beers and 5 steaks, medium rare, and don't make us wait." Donna hurried over her hands, visibly trembling. "Yes, sir. Right away, sir." Sarah watched the fear in Donna's eyes. The same fear that was crawling up her own spine. "Mommy, I'm scared," Emma whispered. "Don't be scared, baby. Just don't look at them. Eat your food when it comes." But one of the bikers was looking at them. He sat at the end of the booth, the largest of the 5. His arms were covered in tattoos, skulls, flames, names Sarah couldn't read. His beard was gray and black like steel wool. A scar ran from his left eyebrow down to his cheek. His eyes were locked on Sarah's table. She felt his gaze like a physical weight. Her skin prickled. Every instinct screamed at her to grab her children and run, but she couldn't. The kids' meal hadn't arrived. She'd already ordered. If she left now, the biker was still watching. What does he want? Why is he staring? Sarah turned her body slightly, putting herself between the biker's line of sight and her children. A barrier. A shield. Whatever she had to be. "Mommy, you're squishing me," Lucas complained. "Sorry, baby." Donna arrived with their food. 1 kid's meal, 5 chicken fingers, a small pile of fries, a plastic cup of juice. "Here you go." Donna set the plate between the children. "Can I get you anything else?" "No, thank you. Just the check, please." "Sure thing, honey." Sarah watched her children divide the food. Emma carefully split the fries into 2 equal piles. Lucas counted the chicken fingers. 2 for you, 2 for me, he announced. "And we share the last one. Fair, fair." They began to eat. Fast, too fast, like they weren't sure the food would stay on the table. Sarah watched them, and something inside her died a little more. This is my fault, all of it. They deserve better. They deserve a mother who can provide. "Mommy," Emma held out a chicken finger. "You should have some. You can have my piece." "No, sweetheart, that's yours." "But eat your food, Emma. Please." Across the diner, the biker named Marcus Bear Thompson couldn't stop watching. He'd seen the woman count money under the table. He'd seen her face when she opened the menu. He'd seen her order 1 meal for 2 kids while claiming she wasn't hungry. He knew that lie. He'd heard it before. 40 years ago. From his own mother's lips. "Bear." Richie, the brother sitting next to him, nudged his arm. "You okay? You've been staring at that table for 10 minutes. "I'm fine." "You don't look fine. You look like you're about to break something." Marcus didn't respond. His eyes stayed fixed on the woman. She was young, 30 maybe, thin in a way that spoke of missed meals, not vanity. Her clothes were clean but worn. She carried herself with a dignity that was cracking at the edges. And those kids, God, those kids. Marcus remembered being that hungry. He remembered the way food looked when you hadn't eaten in days, like it glowed. Like it was the most precious thing in the world. "Bear, seriously." Richie lowered his voice. "What's going on in your head right now?" "Nothing." "Bull, I've known you 23 years. That's not a nothing face. That's a something bad is about to happen face." The woman was reaching for her purse. Marcus watched her pull out crumpled bills. He watched her count them. Once, twice, 3 times. Her face went pale. Something was wrong. Something with the money. Even from across the diner, Marcus could see the panic rising in her chest. The waitress approached with the check. Marcus leaned forward, trying to hear. "Here you go, honey. No rush." The woman took the check. She looked at it, and Marcus saw her whole body go rigid. Is something wrong with the bill?" Her voice was barely audible. No, that's correct. 1 kid's meal, $8.99. Plus tax comes to $9.73. The woman stared at the paper. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. Marcus understood instantly. She thought she had enough. She didn't account for tax. Now she's short. "Ma'am?" The waitress shifted her weight. "Is there a problem?" No problem. The woman opened her purse again. She pulled out the bills. 1s and 5s. She smoothed them on the table and counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, $9. She was 73 cents short and somen. "Mommy." The little girl was watching now. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, baby. Nothing's wrong." But everything was wrong. Marcus could see it. The woman's hands were shaking violently. Her face had gone from pale to ashen. She looked like she might pass out. I might have some change." She dug through her purse desperately. "I know I have somewhere." The waitress sighed, loud enough for people to hear. "Ma'am, I need to clear this table. If you can't pay, I can pay. I just need a moment." "Maybe you should have thought about that before you ordered." Marcus felt his hands curl into fists. The woman pulled her purse onto the table and turned it upside down. Receipts, tissues, a hairbrush, a broken crayon. No coins. "Please," her voice cracked. "Please, I just need 73 cents. I'll come back tomorrow and pay you. I promise. I can't let you leave without paying. That's policy." The little boy started to cry. "Mommy, what's happening?" "It's okay, Lucas. It's okay. Mommy's going to fix this." But she couldn't fix it. Marcus could see that. She couldn't fix any of it. People were staring now. A man at the counter muttered something under his breath. A woman at a nearby table shook her head in disgust. The judgment in the room was thick enough to choke on. And the mother, this poor, desperate mother, sat there with her head bowed, tears streaming down her face, while her children watched her fall apart. "I'm sorry." Her voice was almost gone now. "I'm so sorry. I thought I had enough. I counted it. I counted it so many times." The waitress crossed her arms. "Well, counting isn't paying, is it, Donna?" The manager appeared beside the table, a thin man with a thin mustache and thin patience. "What's the problem here? She can't pay her bill. Ordered food she couldn't afford." The manager looked down at Sarah, at her children, at the empty plate and the crumpled bills. "Ma'am, if you can't pay, I'm going to have to call the police." Emma grabbed her mother's arm. "Mommy, the police—" "No, please, please don't. I'll wash dishes. I'll clean the floors. I'll do anything. Just please don't call the police in front of my children." "That's not how this works." "They're just kids. It's Christmas Eve. Please." Marcus Thompson stood up. The sound of his chair scraping against the floor cut through the diner like a blade. His brothers looked at him in confusion. "Bear, where are you?" He didn't answer. He was already moving. His boots hit the floor heavy and deliberate. Each step commanded attention. Conversations died. Forks stopped. The only sound in that entire diner was Marcus Thompson walking toward the table in the corner. The manager saw him coming. His face went pale. Sir, can I help you? Marcus ignored him. He stopped directly beside the woman's chair. She looked up at him. This massive, scarred, tattooed biker towering over her while she sat helpless with her crying children. Pure terror filled her eyes. "Please," she whispered. "Please, I don't have anything. Don't hurt us. Don't hurt my babies. Please." Marcus felt his heart shatter. This is what they see when they look at me. A monster. He dropped to one knee. Slowly, deliberately, bringing himself down to her level. "Ma'am." His voice came out rough, almost broken. "I'm not going to hurt you, I promise. I would never hurt you or your children." She stared at him, trembling violently. "My name is Marcus. Everyone calls me Bear." He reached into his vest, and the woman flinched. He moved slower, pulling out a worn leather wallet. "I want to pay for your meal, and I want you to order whatever else your family needs tonight. Real food, for all of you." Sarah shook her head frantically. No, I can't. I don't take charity. I don't." "It's not charity." Marcus's voice cracked on the word. "It's one human being helping another. That's all. That's what Christmas is supposed to be about." The little girl Emma was watching him with wide, scared eyes. Marcus turned to her. "Hey there, sweetheart. Are you still hungry?" She nodded slowly. "What would you eat if you could have anything in the world tonight?" Emma looked at her mother, asking permission. Sarah's tears fell faster. Her resistance was crumbling. "It's okay," Marcus said softly. "Let her answer." Emma's voice came out in a whisper. "Pancakes. I really wanted pancakes." "Then you're getting pancakes." Marcus looked at the boy. "What about you, little man?" Lucas wiped his nose with his sleeve. "A cheeseburger, a whole one, just for me. You got it." Marcus turned back to Sarah. "And you? When's the last time you actually ate a meal?" She couldn't answer, couldn't speak, could barely breathe. "Ma'am, please, tell me." 3 days. The words came out broken. 3 days ago. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, they were wet. "Not anymore." He stood up and faced the manager. "You're going to bring this family whatever they want. Steak, pancakes, burgers, dessert. I don't care what it costs. And you're going to treat them with respect while you do it. Understood?" The manager's mouth opened and closed like a fish. "I said understood. Yes, sir." Marcus turned to Donna. "Take their order again. The real order this time." The diner remained silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Every eye was fixed on the massive biker standing beside this broken family like a guardian carved from stone. Then Richie stood up from the corner booth. "Bear?" He walked over, his brothers following. "What do you need?" "I need these kids to have a real Christmas meal." Richie looked at Sarah, at the children. Something shifted in his expression. "Done." He pulled off his leather jacket and draped it carefully around Emma's shoulders. "You cold little princess." Emma's eyes went wide. She looked at the heavy leather covered in patches and chains. Then she looked up at Richie's bearded face. "It's warm," she whispered. "That's the idea." Another brother, Tommy, crouched beside Lucas. "Hey, champ, I heard you like cheeseburgers." Lucas nodded, still clutching his mother's arm. "Me too. In fact, I think cheeseburgers might be the best food ever invented. Want to hear something cool?" "What?" "I once ate 7 cheeseburgers in one sitting. Threw up for 2 days straight. Worth it." Lucas giggled. Actually giggled. The sound broke through the tension like sunlight through storm clouds. Sarah couldn't process what was happening. 5 minutes ago, she was about to be arrested for 73 cents. Now 5 Hell's Angels surrounded her table, not threatening her, but protecting her, comforting her children, paying for her meal. I don't understand. Her voice shook. Why are you doing this? Marcus sat down across from her. His massive frame barely fit in the booth. Can I tell you something? She nodded weakly. 40 years ago, almost to the day, my mother took me to a restaurant. Little truck stop outside Columbus. She had $4 in her pocket. $4 and a hungry 8-year-old boy. Sarah's breath caught. She ordered me a grilled cheese. Nothing for herself. Said she wasn't hungry. Marcus's jaw tightened. Sound familiar? Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks. When the bill came, she was short. 75 cents. The manager. He didn't offer help. He humiliated her. Made her wash dishes in front of the whole restaurant while I sat there and watched. Marcus's voice dropped to barely a whisper. I watched my mother cry into a sink full of dirty water on Christmas Eve. I was 8 years old, and I swore to God that if I ever had the power to stop that from happening to someone else, I would. He looked into Sarah's eyes. Tonight I have that power. Please let me use it. Sarah broke. Not in pieces completely. The walls she'd built over months of struggle, years of doing everything alone, a lifetime of refusing to ask for help, they all collapsed at once. She bent forward, sobbing into her hands. Deep, racking sobs that shook her entire body. Emma scrambled across the booth and wrapped her arms around her mother. Mommy, don't cry. Please don't cry. I'm sorry. Sarah pulled her daughter close. I'm so sorry, baby. I tried so hard. I tried to give you everything. I tried. Mommy, you do give us everything. You're the best mommy in the whole world. Lucas squeezed in from the other side. We don't need stuff, Mommy. We just need you. Marcus watched this family hold each other. These 3 people who had nothing but each other. And he realized they had everything that mattered. Donna appeared with her pad eyes red-rimmed. I'm ready to take your order now. The real order. Whatever you want. Sarah wiped her face. She couldn't speak yet. Marcus nodded at the children. Go ahead, you two. Order whatever your hearts desire. Emma's face lit up with cautious hope. Really, anything. Anything. I want the big pancakes, the ones with chocolate chips. Excellent choice. And you, little man. Lucas grinned. The double cheeseburger, with extra pickles, and bacon. Now you're talking. Marcus looked at Sarah. And you, what are you having? I can't. You can, and you will. Those kids need their mother healthy. That means you eat tonight. No arguments. Sarah looked at the menu. For the first time in months, she wasn't calculating costs. She wasn't doing math in her head. She was just choosing. The turkey dinner, she whispered, with mashed potatoes. Marcus smiled. It transformed his whole face, softened the scars, warmed the hard edges. Perfect. The food came 20 minutes later. Mountains of it. Pancakes stacked high with whipped cream. A cheeseburger so big Lucas could barely hold it. Turkey and mashed potatoes steaming on a real plate. And for the first time in 3 days, Sarah Mitchell ate. She hadn't realized how hungry she was until the first bite touched her lips. Then she couldn't stop. The food tasted like more than food, it tasted like survival. Marcus sat back and watched. His brothers pulled chairs around the table, creating a protective circle. They talked to the kids, made them laugh, treated them like precious cargo. So, Richie said to Emma, you think you could eat more pancakes than me? Definitely. Emma had whipped cream on her nose. I'm a pancake champion. Oh, really? We might have to test that theory someday. At the other end of the table, Tommy was showing Lucas his tattoos. This one's a dragon. Got it in Korea. Why a dragon? Because dragons are tough, but they also protect people they love. Like how your mom protects you. Lucas looked at Sarah. My mom is the toughest person ever. I believe it, kid. I absolutely believe it. Sarah finished her meal and sat back. For the first time in months, she felt full. Not just in her stomach, somewhere deeper. I don't know how to thank you, she said to Marcus. You don't have to thank me. But I do. You don't understand what tonight means, what you stopped from happening. Tell me. Sarah hesitated. Then the truth spilled out. Tomorrow morning. 8 a.m. My landlord is evicting us. We're 3 weeks behind on rent. I've been working 2 jobs cleaning houses during the day and the office building at night. But it's not enough. It's never enough. Marcus's expression darkened. Where were you going to go after the eviction? Sarah's voice dropped. I don't know. A shelter, maybe, if there's room. On Christmas Day, I didn't have a choice. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. His jaw worked like he was chewing on something bitter. Finally, he spoke. What's your landlord's name? Why? His name. Pete Garrison. He owns the motel on Route 9, but the Valley View Motel. Yes. How did you... I know Pete Garrison. Marcus's voice went cold. I know exactly who he is. Sarah felt something shift in the air. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. What are you going to do? Marcus looked at her, then at her children laughing with his brothers, alive with joy for the first time in who knows how long. Tonight you're going to finish your meal. Your kids are going to get dessert. Then I'm going to drive you back to that motel. And then, Marcus's eyes hardened. Then I'm going to have a conversation with Pete Garrison about the meaning of Christmas. Sarah's heart pounded. Please, I don't want any trouble. There won't be trouble. Marcus reached across the table and placed his massive hand over hers. Gentle. Protective. There will only be change. Emma tugged at Marcus's sleeve. Mr. Bear. He turned to her. Yes, Princess. Are you a bad guy? The question hit Marcus like a punch to the chest. He looked at this little girl in his leather jacket, chocolate on her face, hope in her eyes. She was asking the question the whole world asked when they saw him. The question he'd asked himself 1,000 times. I've done bad things, he said honestly. Things I'm not proud of. But I'm trying to be better. Every single day I'm trying. Emma considered this. My mommy says everyone makes mistakes, but good people try to fix them. Your mommy is very smart. I know. Emma smiled. I think you're a good person, Mr. Bear. You have kind eyes. Marcus felt tears threatening. He blinked them back. Thank you, Emma. That means more than you know. Lucas looked up from his cheeseburger. Mr. Bear, can I ask you something? Sure, champ. Are you really a Hell's Angel, like a real one? I really am. Do you have a motorcycle? I do, a Harley Davidson, 1987, Softail. Lucas's eyes went huge. That's so cool. I've never been on a motorcycle. Marcus glanced at Sarah. She was watching this exchange with an expression he couldn't quite read. Maybe someday, Marcus said. When you're older, and if your mom says it's okay, I'll take you for a ride. Really? Promise. I promise. Donna appeared with the check. She set it on the table in front of Marcus. This one's already taken care of, she said quietly. By me? Marcus looked up. What? I saw what you did tonight. What you're doing for this family. Donna's voice wavered. I was wrong earlier. I was rude and I was cruel, and I'm sorry. This is my way of saying that." Sarah shook her head. "No, you don't have to. Please." Donna looked at her. "Let me do something right tonight." Marcus studied the waitress for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Thank you, Donna. Merry Christmas." She walked away before anyone could see her cry. The diner had changed. Sarah noticed it slowly. The other customers weren't staring with judgment anymore. They were smiling. Some had tears in their eyes. An elderly couple at the counter raised their coffee cups in a small toast. "What's happening?" Sarah whispered. "Kindness," Marcus said. "It's contagious." A man approached the table. 50s work boots, calloused hands. "Excuse me," he addressed Sarah. "I don't mean to intrude, but I couldn't help overhearing about your situation. The eviction." Sarah tensed. "I'm sorry I own the hardware store on Main Street. We're hiring after the new year. It's not glamorous work, but it pays fair and the hours are steady. If you're interested, the job is yours." Sarah's mouth fell open. "What? My name's Harold Jenkins. Come by next week. We'll get you set up." He walked away before she could respond. Marcus's brothers exchanged glances. This was something none of them expected. Then another person approached. A woman in her 60s, pearls around her neck, kindness in her eyes. "Young lady, I volunteer at the Methodist Church on Oak Street. We have a program for families. Groceries, clothing for the children, help with bills. Will you let us help you?" Sarah started to shake. I don't. Here's my card. Call me tomorrow. Promise me." "I promise." The woman patted Sarah's hand and returned to her table. One by one, people stopped by, offering help, offering hope. A mechanic who would look at her car for free. A teacher who would tutor her children. A grandmother who had extra coats that would fit Lucas and Emma. By the time the last person left, Sarah was surrounded by business cards, phone numbers, and promises. "I don't understand," she kept saying. Why would strangers do this?" Marcus leaned forward. "Because you reminded them of something they forgot. That we're all in this together. That helping each other isn't weakness, it's the whole point." The children had fallen asleep. Emma curled up in the booth, Marcus's leather jacket, still wrapped around her like a blanket. Lucas slumped against his mother's side, a smear of ketchup on his cheek. Sarah looked at her sleeping children, then at Marcus. "You changed our lives tonight," she said quietly. "In one night, you changed everything." "No," Marcus shook his head. "You changed your lives. You woke up every day and fought for those kids even when there was no hope left. That's not something I did. That's something you did. All I did was show up at the right moment." "But if you hadn't..." "But I did, and that's what matters." Sarah wiped her eyes. "What happens now?" Marcus stood up. His brothers rose with him. "Now we take you home. And tomorrow we make sure Pete Garrison understands that evicting a mother and her children on Christmas Day is not going to happen." "How?" Marcus smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a man who had learned a long time ago how to protect the people he cared about. "Let me worry about that." Richie gathered Emma carefully in his arms. She stirred but didn't wake. "Easy, princess. Uncle Richie's got you." Tommy lifted Lucas. The boy murmured something about cheeseburgers and went back to sleep. Marcus helped Sarah to her feet. She swayed slightly, exhaustion finally catching up with her. "Steady. I've got you." She looked up at him. This terrifying man who had turned out to be her salvation. "Thank you, Bear. For everything." "Don't thank me yet." His voice was gentle, but firm. "The night's not over." They walked toward the door. The diner erupted in applause. Not loud applause, not dramatic, just hands coming together in quiet recognition of something beautiful that had happened in their midst. Sarah paused at the door and turned back. She looked at these strangers, these people who had judged her, then helped her, then cheered for her. "Merry Christmas," she said. "Merry Christmas," they called back. Outside, the snow was still falling. 5 motorcycles sat in the parking lot, chrome gleaming under the streetlights. Beside them, an old Toyota with rust spots and a cracked windshield. "That's your car?" Marcus asked. Sarah nodded, embarrassed. "It runs, most of the time." Marcus turned to his brothers. "Richie, you drive her car. I'll take her and the kids in the truck." "Copy that." They loaded the sleeping children into Marcus's SUV. The heater blasted warm air. Within seconds, Emma and Lucas were deeply asleep again. Sarah sat in the passenger seat, watching the snow fall past the window. 30 years, she said quietly. "What? I've been taking care of myself since I was 16. 30 years of doing everything alone, never asking for help, never accepting it." She turned to look at him. "I forgot that people could be good." Marcus started the engine. "People can be good, and people can be cruel. The difference is usually just one person deciding which one they want to be." He pulled out of the parking lot. The motorcycles followed in formation. "Tonight," Marcus said, "a lot of people decided to be good, and tomorrow Pete Garrison is going to decide too." Sarah shivered. "What if he doesn't?" Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Then I'll help him decide." The convoy disappeared into the snowy night, 5 motorcycles and 1 SUV carrying a family toward whatever came next. And somewhere in that darkness, Pete Garrison slept peacefully in his warm house, completely unaware that his morning was about to be ruined by a man called Bear. The convoy rolled through the empty streets like a slow-moving storm. Sarah watched the snow swirl past the windshield, her mind racing faster than the vehicle beneath her. In the back seat, Emma and Lucas slept peacefully, unaware that their lives were about to change again. "You're quiet," Marcus said without taking his eyes off the road. "I'm scared." "Of what?" Sarah turned to look at him. "Of what happens when we get there. Of what you're going to do." Marcus was silent for a moment. "I'm not going to hurt anyone, Sarah. That's not who I am anymore." "Then what are you going to do?" "I'm going to have a conversation. With 5 Hell's Angels behind you." Marcus almost smiled. "The bikes help people listen better." Sarah shook her head. "Pete Garrison isn't a bad man. He's just hard. Life made him hard." "Life makes everyone hard. It's what we do with that hardness that matters." The motel appeared ahead. Valley View Motel. A faded sign, flickering lights, 12 rooms in a single row. Sarah's chest tightened when she saw the eviction notice still taped to her door. "That's our room," she whispered. "Number 7. Marcus pulled the SUV into the parking lot. The motorcycles followed, engines growling low. He cut the ignition and sat still. "Stay here with the kids." "Marcus, please, let me handle this." Sarah grabbed his arm. "Promise me you won't hurt him. Promise me." Marcus looked at her hand on his arm, then at her face. Something softened behind his eyes. "I promise." He stepped out of the truck. His brothers dismounted their bikes and formed up around him. 5 massive figures in black leather standing in the falling snow. "Which room is Garrison's?" Marcus asked. Richie pointed to the office at the end of the row. "Light's still on." "Good, he's awake." They walked toward the office. Their boots crunched against the frozen ground. Marcus felt his heart pounding not from fear, but from something older, something that had lived inside him since he was 8 years old. "This is for you, Mom. Everything I do tonight is for you." He reached the office door and knocked. 3 heavy strikes that echoed through the silent night. A voice from inside. "We're closed. Come back in the morning." Marcus knocked again. Harder. "I said we're closed." "Mr. Garrison." Marcus kept his voice calm. "I need to speak with you about one of your tenants. Sarah Mitchell. Room 7. Silence. Then footsteps. The door cracked open 2 inches. Pete Garrison's face appeared in the gap, 60 years old gray beard, suspicious eyes. "What about her?" "You're evicting her tomorrow morning." "That's right. She's 3 weeks behind. I run a business, not a charity." "It's Christmas Eve." "Bills don't care about Christmas." Marcus nodded slowly. "May I come in? I'd like to discuss this like civilized men." Pete's eyes moved past Marcus to the 4 bikers standing behind him. His face went pale. Are you threatening me?" "No, sir, I'm asking politely. There's a difference." Pete's hand trembled on the door. "I could call the cops." "You could, but then we'd have to wait for them to arrive. And while we wait, we could have a nice conversation about the woman and 2 children you're throwing out on Christmas morning." Marcus paused. "Or you could let me in, and this whole thing could be over in 5 minutes." Pete stared at him for a long moment. Then he stepped back and opened the door. Marcus walked in alone. He nodded to his brothers, and they stayed outside. The office was small and cluttered. A desk piled with papers. A space heater glowing orange in the corner. Pete stood behind the desk like it was a barricade. "Say what you came to say and get out." Marcus didn't sit. "How much does Sarah owe you?" $412, 3 weeks at $137 a week plus late fees." "I'll pay it." Pete's eyebrows shot up. "You'll what?" "I'll pay her debt in full tonight." "Why, what's she to you?" "Nothing. I met her 3 hours ago." "Then why would you—" "Because 40 years ago, someone should have helped my mother the way I'm helping Sarah. No one did, and I've carried that weight every single day since." Marcus reached into his vest and pulled out his wallet. "So I'm asking you, Mr. Garrison, let me pay this woman's debt. Let her stay through the holidays. Give her a chance." Pete's face twisted with something that looked almost like pain. "You don't understand. I've got my own bills, my own debts. The bank's breathing down my neck. If I let everyone slide, I'm not asking you to let anyone slide. I'm asking you to let me pay what she owes." Marcus counted out $500 bills and placed them on the desk. Pete stared at the money. His jaw worked back and forth. "That's more than she owes. The extra is for next month. She'll need time to get back on her feet. And after that, what happens when she falls behind again? She won't." "How do you know?" Marcus thought about the job offers in Sarah's pocket, the church volunteer with her phone number, the community that had rallied around her in that diner. "Because she's not alone anymore." Pete was quiet for a long time. His eyes stayed fixed on the money. "You know what I was doing 40 years ago," he finally said. "I was exactly where she is, broke, desperate, 2 kids and a wife who'd just walked out." He picked up one of the bills and turned it over in his fingers. "Nobody helped me. I clawed my way out alone. It made me hard, maybe too hard. It doesn't have to stay that way." Pete looked up. "What? The hardness. It's a choice. Every single day, it's a choice." Something flickered in Pete's eyes. Something that might have been the man he used to be before life beat it out of him. "My daughter," Pete said quietly. "She's about Sarah's age. Single mom, too. Lives in Ohio with my grandkids. His voice caught. I haven't seen them in 2 years. Too proud to visit. Too stubborn to admit I miss them. Marcus waited. If someone treated my daughter the way I've been treating Sarah... Pete couldn't finish the sentence. It's not too late. For what? To be different. To be the man your daughter would be proud of. Pete set the money down. He pressed his palms flat against the desk and took a deep breath. Take your money back. Marcus's heart sank. Mr. Garrison, take it back. Sarah's debt is cleared. Consider it my Christmas gift. Pete's voice shook. And tell her I'm sorry about the eviction notice. I'll tear it up myself in the morning. Marcus stood frozen. Are you serious? I'm serious. Pete finally looked him in the eyes. You're right. About the hardness. About the choice. He shook his head slowly. I've been so angry for so long I forgot why I even started. I opened this motel to help people who were down on their luck. Somewhere along the way I became the thing I hated. Marcus picked up the money and held it out. At least let me... No, Pete pushed his hand away. I need to do this myself. I need to feel like I'm still capable of being decent. For a moment, neither man spoke. Then Marcus extended his hand. Thank you, Mr. Garrison. Pete took it. His grip was firm, but his eyes were wet. Call me Pete. And thank you for reminding me who I used to be. Marcus walked out of the office. His brothers looked at him expectantly. Well, Richie asked. How'd it go? Marcus let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. She's staying. No eviction. Debt cleared. You paid him off? No. He forgave it himself. Richie's jaw dropped. Garrison. That old hard-ass. People can change, brother, given the right push. They walked back to the SUV. Sarah was standing outside, arms wrapped around herself, waiting. What happened? Her voice trembled. What did he say? Marcus stopped in front of her. You're not being evicted. What? Pete cleared your debt. You're staying. No charge. Sarah's knees buckled. Marcus caught her before she hit the ground. That's impossible. Pete would never... He did. He said to tell you he's sorry. Sarah burst into tears, deep heaving sobs that racked her entire body. All the fear, all the stress, all the weight she'd been carrying had poured out of her in that parking lot. I don't understand. I don't understand any of this. You don't have to understand it. You just have to accept it. She looked up at him through her tears. Why are you doing all of this? Marcus thought about his mother, about that truck stop diner 40 years ago, about the promise he'd made to himself while watching her wash dishes through his own childhood tears. Because kindness isn't supposed to be rare. It's supposed to be normal, and somewhere along the way, we all forgot that. The motel room door opened. Emma stood in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. Mommy, why are you crying? Sarah rushed to her daughter and pulled her into her arms. Happy tears, baby. These are happy tears. Lucas appeared behind his sister. Are we still getting kicked out? No, sweetheart. We're staying. We're staying. Marcus watched the family embrace. Something loosened in his chest. A knot that had been there for 4 decades finally came undone. Richie stepped up beside him. You did good tonight, Bear. We did good. All of us. So what now? Marcus looked at the falling snow, at the mother holding her children at the Christmas lights, blinking weakly on the motel's faded sign. Now we make sure they have a real Christmas. It's almost midnight, brother. Stores are closed. Not all of them. Marcus pulled out his phone and made a call. Yeah, it's Bear. I need a favor. That 24-hour Walmart on Route 15. I need someone to meet me there in 30 minutes. He paused. Yeah, I know what time it is. That's why I'm calling you. He hung up and turned to his brothers. Tommy, you stay here with Sarah and the kids. Make sure nobody bothers them. Got it? Richie, Mike, Jake, you're with me. Where we going? Marcus climbed onto his motorcycle. Shopping. Sarah ran toward him. Marcus, wait. You've already done so much. I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm telling. He kicked the engine to life. Those kids are going to wake up tomorrow with presents under a tree. That's not negotiable. He roared out of the parking lot before she could argue. The Walmart was nearly empty when they arrived. A few late-night shoppers wandered the aisles. The employees looked exhausted, ready for their shifts to end. Marcus grabbed a cart. Split up. Meet back here in 20 minutes. What are we getting? Mike asked. Everything. Toys for the kids, clothes, food, whatever a family needs for Christmas. They scattered through the store. Marcus headed for the toy section. He had no idea what 7-year-old girls or 6-year-old boys liked. He hadn't bought a toy in 30 years. A store employee approached him nervously. Sir, can I help you find something? Yeah. Marcus looked at the overwhelming wall of toys. I need presents for 2 kids, a girl 7 and a boy 6. I have no idea what I'm doing. The employee, a young woman with tired eyes and a name tag reading Jessica, studied him for a moment. Are they your kids? No, they're... Marcus paused. They're kids who need a Christmas. Something changed in Jessica's expression. The nervousness faded. Something warmer took its place. Okay. Tell me about them. What do they like? The girl, Emma, she's smart. Protective of her little brother. She likes pancakes. Jessica smiled. That's a start. What about the boy? Lucas, he loves cheeseburgers, and he thinks motorcycles are cool. I can work with that. For the next 15 minutes, Jessica guided Marcus through the toy section. She picked out a stuffed bear for Emma, because she seems like she needs something to hug, a set of building blocks for creative kids, a remote control motorcycle for Lucas action figures, coloring books, crayons. This is too much, Marcus said, looking at the overflowing cart. It's Christmas. There's no such thing as too much. When Marcus reached for his wallet, Jessica stopped him. Can I tell you something? Sure. I've worked here for 3 years. Every Christmas Eve, I watch people fight over the last toy on the shelf. I watch them yell at cashiers over coupons. I watch them act like Christmas is about stuff instead of people. Her eyes grew wet. Tonight I watched a biker covered in skulls buy presents for kids he just met. That's the first time I've seen the real Christmas spirit in years. Marcus didn't know what to say. Thank you, Jessica whispered, for reminding me why I still believe in people. She walked away before he could respond. His brothers appeared with their carts. Richie had winter coats, boots, gloves. Mike had groceries, a turkey stuffing everything needed for a real Christmas dinner. Jake had a small artificial tree and a box of ornaments. We got everything, Richie said, plus some extra. What extra? Gift cards for the mom, so she can get things for herself. Marcus looked at his brothers, these men who the world saw as outlaws, as criminals, as something to fear. You guys are all right, he said. Don't get soft on us, Bear. They paid for everything. The total was over $800. Marcus didn't hesitate. The ride back to the motel felt different. The cold didn't bite as hard. The snow didn't feel as heavy. Something had shifted in the air itself. When they pulled into the parking lot, Sarah was waiting outside. Tommy stood beside her. She wouldn't go inside, Tommy said. Kept saying she needed to see you come back, to make sure you were real. Marcus dismounted and walked toward her. I'm real. I know. Sarah's voice was barely a whisper. I just needed to see it. They unloaded the bags. Sarah's face went from disbelief to shock to tears as she saw what they'd bought. This is too much. I can't possibly. It's already done. Marcus set the last bag inside the room. Now here's what's going to happen. You're going to put the kids to bed. Then you're going to stay up and wrap these presents, and tomorrow morning when they wake up, they're going to have the Christmas they deserve. Marcus, I don't know how to repay you. You repay me by raising those kids right, by accepting help when you need it, by being there for someone else someday when they need it. He turned to leave. Wait. Sarah grabbed his hand. Stay. Please, just for a few minutes. Let me make you coffee. Let me do something. Marcus looked at his brothers. They nodded. Coffee sounds good. The room was small, but clean. Sarah had done her best to make it feel like home. Paper snowflakes hung on the walls. A small strand of Christmas lights was draped over the window. The children were asleep in the single bed, curled around each other like two halves of the same whole. Sarah put water on to boil. Her hands shook as she measured the instant coffee. Can I ask you something? She said quietly. Anything. Your mother, the one you mentioned. What happened to her? Marcus sat down on the room's only chair. His massive frame made it look like dollhouse furniture. She died when I was 19. Worked herself to death, trying to give me a better life. His voice grew rough. She never saw me become successful. Never saw me buy a house. Never knew that her son finally made something of himself. But she knew you loved her. Yeah, she knew that. Then she died happy. Marcus looked at Sarah. This woman who had nothing but somehow understood everything. You remind me of her, he said. The way you protect your kids, the way you sacrifice without complaining, the way you keep fighting when anyone else would have given up. I don't feel strong. The strongest people never do. Sarah poured the coffee. She handed him a cup and sat down across from him. What do I do now? She asked. After tonight, after all of this, what comes next? Tomorrow you call Harold Jenkins at the hardware store. You take that job. You call the church lady. You let people help you. Marcus took a sip of his coffee. And you stop believing that you have to carry everything alone. That's the hardest part. I know, but you can do it. Emma stirred in the bed. Her eyes fluttered open. Mommy. Shh, baby, go back to sleep. But Emma's eyes found Marcus. She smiled sleepily. Mr. Bear came back. He did, sweetheart. I knew he would. Emma's eyes closed again. He has kind eyes. Within seconds, she was asleep again. Marcus set down his coffee. I should go. Let you get some rest. Sarah walked him to the door. The other bikers were waiting outside, stamping their feet against the cold. Marcus, Sarah touched his arm. I meant what I said in the diner. You changed our lives tonight. You changed mine, too. How? Marcus looked at the sleeping children through the window, at this small family who had somehow found their way into his heart. You reminded me why I'm still here, what all of it is for. He turned back to her. I've spent 40 years being angry. Angry at the world, angry at God, angry at everyone who didn't help my mother when she needed it. He took a breath. Tonight I finally let that go. Because of you. Because of them. Sarah's tears fell silently down her cheeks. Merry Christmas, Sarah Mitchell. Merry Christmas, Marcus Thompson. He walked to his motorcycle, climbed on. His brothers did the same. Bear, Richie called out. Where to now? Marcus looked at the motel one last time, at the light in the window, at the family inside. Home, he said. We're going home." The engines roared to life. 5 motorcycles thundered into the night, leaving tracks in the fresh snow. Sarah stood in the doorway and watched until the taillights disappeared. Then she went inside, closed the door, and began wrapping presents for her children. Outside, the snow kept falling. Inside, something that had been broken for a very long time finally started to heal. And in a small motel room on Route 9, 2 children slept peacefully, dreaming of motorcycles and cheeseburgers and a giant man with kind eyes who had appeared out of nowhere and changed everything. Sarah finished wrapping the last present at 3 in the morning. Her fingers were raw from tape and scissors. Her eyes burned from exhaustion. But when she looked at the pile of gifts beneath the small artificial tree Marcus and his brothers had brought, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. She sat back against the wall and stared at her sleeping children. Emma's arm was draped protectively over Lucas even in sleep. They'd been taking care of each other since they could walk. "I'm sorry," Sarah whispered into the darkness. "I'm so sorry I couldn't give you more." She didn't realize she was crying until the tears dripped onto her hands. Exhaustion finally pulled her under. She fell asleep on the floor beside the tree, surrounded by presents she never thought she'd be able to give. 3 hours later, Lucas screamed. Sarah's eyes flew open. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She scrambled to her feet, ready to fight, ready to protect. "Mommy! Mommy, look!" Lucas was standing in front of the tree, his small body trembling with disbelief. Emma was beside him, her hand pressed over her mouth. "There's presents," Lucas breathed. "Real presents. Mommy, where did they come from?" Sarah's throat closed. She couldn't speak. Emma turned to her mother with tears streaming down her face. "Did Santa come? Mommy, did Santa really come?" "Yes, baby." Sarah's voice cracked. "Santa came." Lucas threw himself at the presents. "Can we open them? Please, please." "Go ahead, sweetheart. They're all for you." What followed was the most beautiful chaos Sarah had ever witnessed. Paper flew through the air. Laughter filled the room. Lucas shouted with joy when he found the remote control motorcycle. Emma clutched the stuffed bear to her chest, like it was the most precious thing in the world. "Mommy, look. It's so soft, I'm going to name him Bear, like Mr. Bear." Sarah laughed through her tears. "That's perfect, baby." Lucas was already trying to figure out how the motorcycle worked. "This is the best Christmas ever, the best one in the whole world." Emma ran to her mother and wrapped her arms around her waist. "Thank you, Mommy. Thank you so much." "It wasn't just me, sweetheart." "I know." Emma looked up at her. "It was the angels, the ones with motorcycles." Sarah pulled her daughter close and held her tight. "Yes, baby. The angels with motorcycles." The morning passed in a blur of happiness. The children played with their new toys. Sarah cooked the turkey that had been left in one of the bags. The smell of roasting meat filled the small room, mixing with the sound of laughter. For the first time in months, they felt like a real family. At noon, a knock came at the door. Sarah tensed. Old habits, old fears. She wiped her hands on a towel and moved toward the door. "Who is it?" "It's Pete. Pete Garrison." Sarah's stomach dropped. She looked at her children still playing, happily oblivious to the sudden tension in the room. She opened the door a crack. Pete stood outside, hat in his hands, eyes red-rimmed. He looked like he hadn't slept all night. "Can I talk to you for a minute? The kids are... I won't take long. Please." Sarah stepped outside and pulled the door mostly closed behind her. The cold bit at her arms, but she barely felt it. "What do you want, Pete?" "I want to apologize." Sarah blinked. I've been a terrible person to you, to a lot of people. Pete's voice shook. That man last night, Marcus, he said something that kept me up all night. He said hardness is a choice. Every day it's a choice. Sarah didn't know what to say. I chose wrong for a lot of years, Pete continued. I let the world make me cold. I forgot what it was like to struggle. Forgot what it felt like to have nothing. He looked down at his hat. When I started this motel, I wanted to help people. That was the whole point. Somewhere along the way, I lost that. Pete, let me finish, please. He took a shaky breath. I called my daughter this morning. First time in 2 years. She cried when she heard my voice. My grandkids got on the phone and asked when I was coming to visit. His voice broke. I didn't even know their favorite colors. What kind of grandfather doesn't know his grandkids' favorite colors? Sarah felt her own eyes burning. I'm going to be better, Pete said. Starting today. Starting with you. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. This is your lease. 12 months, same rate guaranteed. You don't have to worry about eviction anymore. Sarah stared at the paper. Her hands trembled as she took it. I can't accept this. You can. And you will. Consider it my first step toward being human again. Sarah looked at this man who had terrified her for weeks. This man who had posted eviction notices and threatened to call the police. Now he stood before her broken open, trying to put himself back together. Thank you, Pete. Don't thank me. I haven't earned it yet. He put his hat back on. Merry Christmas, Sarah. Merry Christmas. He walked away. Sarah watched him go, the lease clutched in her hands like a lifeline. When she went back inside, Emma was watching her. Mommy, was that the mean man? He's not mean anymore, baby. People can change. Like in the stories. Yes, sweetheart. Exactly like in the stories. By mid-afternoon, Sarah realized she needed to call Marcus. She'd been thinking about it all morning, but she didn't know what to say. Thank you seemed too small. Everything seemed too small. She found the card he'd given her. His phone number was written in neat, careful handwriting. She dialed before she could talk herself out of it. It rang 3 times. 4. 5. Hello? His voice was rougher than she remembered, like he'd been sleeping. Marcus, it's Sarah. Sarah Mitchell. A pause. Sarah, is everything okay? The kids? Everyone's fine. Better than fine. She pressed the phone tighter to her ear. I needed to tell you. The words stuck in her throat. Tell me what. The kids woke up this morning. They saw the presents. Lucas called it the best Christmas ever. Emma named her stuffed bear after you. Silence on the other end. Marcus, are you there? I'm here. His voice was thick. I'm here. I don't know how to thank you. I've been trying to find the words all morning, but nothing feels big enough. You don't have to thank me, Sarah. Yes, I do. You saved us. Not just last night, you saved our whole lives. She wiped her eyes. I was drowning. I've been drowning for years, and you reached down and pulled us out. Sarah, let me finish, please. She took a breath. I grew up being told that bikers were dangerous, that people with tattoos were criminals, that the world was divided into good people and bad people, and you could tell which was which just by looking. Her voice strengthened. You proved all of that wrong. You showed my children that kindness doesn't have a uniform, that heroes don't always look like heroes. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. My mother used to say something, he finally said. She said everyone's fighting a battle you can't see. The only question is whether you make that battle harder or easier. She sounds like a wise woman. She was. She was the best person I've ever known. I think she'd be proud of you." Marcus didn't respond for several seconds. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. "You really think so?" "I know so." The line crackled with emotion neither of them could name. "Sarah, I need to tell you something." "What? Last night wasn't chance. I don't believe in coincidence. I think some things are meant to happen. I think I was supposed to walk into that diner at that exact moment. I think you were supposed to be there." "Why?" "Because we both needed saving. You needed someone to see you, and I needed someone to remind me why I'm still here." He paused. "You saved me too, Sarah. You and those kids." Sarah pressed her hand to her chest. Her heart was beating so hard she could feel it in her throat. "Marcus, A crash from inside the room. Lucas screaming. "Mommy, Emma fell." Sarah dropped the phone and ran inside. Emma was on the floor, clutching her arm, tears streaming down her face. The chair she'd been standing on lay toppled beside her. "Baby, what happened?" "I was trying to reach the star," Emma sobbed. "The one on top of the tree. I wanted to make it straight, and I fell." Sarah knelt beside her daughter. "Let me see your arm. Can you move it?" Emma tried to move her wrist and screamed in pain. Sarah's blood went cold. "Okay, baby, okay. We're going to the hospital." "No hospitals are scary. I know, sweetheart, but we need to make sure your arm is okay." Lucas stood frozen by the door, his face white. "Is Emma going to die?" "No, baby. She's going to be fine. But I need you to be brave, okay? Can you be brave for your sister?" Lucas nodded, fighting back tears. Sarah gathered Emma in her arms and rushed toward the door. Her keys. Where were her keys? Her phone was still on the floor. She could hear Marcus's voice, tiny and distant. "Sarah! Sarah, what's happening?" "Sarah?" She grabbed the phone. "Emma fell. I think her arm is broken. I have to get to the hospital." "Where's the nearest one?" "I don't know. I'm not from here. I don't know where anything is." "Mercy General. It's 15 minutes east on Route 9. I'm on my way." "Marcus, you don't have to. I'm on my way." The line went dead. Sarah loaded the children into her car. Emma whimpered with every bump. Lucas sat in the back, holding his sister's good hand, whispering that everything would be okay. The car started on the third try. Sarah pulled out of the parking lot, tires spinning on the icy pavement. She'd driven 5 minutes when the engine sputtered. No. The car lurched. The dashboard lights flickered. "Mommy, what's happening? It's okay, baby. It's okay." But it wasn't okay. The engine coughed once more and died completely. Sarah guided the car to the shoulder. She turned the key. Nothing. Again. Nothing. "No!" She slammed her hands against the steering wheel. "Not now, please, not now!" Emma was crying harder. "Mommy, my arm hurts so bad." "I know, baby, I know." Sarah fumbled for her phone. Her fingers shook so badly she could barely dial. Marcus answered on the first ring. "Sarah, the car died. We're on Route 9, maybe 2 miles from the motel. Emma's arm, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Stay there. Don't move. I'm coming. Marcus, please, hurry. I'm coming, Sarah. I promise." She hung up and pulled Emma closer. The cold was seeping into the car. Without the engine running, there was no heat. "Mommy, I'm scared." "I know, baby. Help is coming. I promise." Lucas climbed into the front seat and pressed himself against his mother's side. "I'll keep us warm, Mommy. I'll be the brave one." Sarah held both her children and waited. 3 minutes passed. 4. 5. Emma's crying had quieted to soft whimpers. Her face was pale. Sarah kept checking her arm, terrified of what she might see. Then she heard it. A distant rumble. Low and deep. Getting closer. Motorcycles. Lucas pressed his face to the window. "Mommy, it's Mr. Bear!" 5 motorcycles roared up behind the broken car. Marcus was off his bike before it even stopped moving. He yanked open the door. "Is she okay? Let me see." "Her wrist. I think it's broken." Marcus looked at Emma's arm. His jaw tightened. "We need to get her to the hospital now. My bike's too dangerous with her hurt like this." He turned to Richie. "Give me your keys." "What?" "Your truck. Give me the keys, now." Richie tossed them over. "It's at the gas station half a mile back." "Tommy, stay with the kids. Keep them warm." Marcus looked at Sarah. "I'll be back in 3 minutes." He was gone before she could respond. Tommy opened the car door and handed Sarah his leather jacket. "Wrap them in this. It'll help." "Thank you." The minutes stretched like hours. Emma had stopped crying entirely, which scared Sarah more than the screaming had. "Baby, stay with me. Okay, keep talking to me." "I'm tired, Mommy. I know, but you have to stay awake. Can you do that for me?" "I'll try." Lucas squeezed his sister's hand. "Remember the motorcycle, the one I got for Christmas when you're better? I'll let you play with it, I promise." Emma gave a weak smile. "Really? Really? Even though you're a girl?" "Girls can like motorcycles too. I know. Mr. Bear told me." Headlights appeared on the road. A truck pulled up beside them and Marcus jumped out. "Let's go. I'll carry her." He lifted Emma as gently as if she were made of glass. She didn't even whimper. "Uncle Bear." Her voice was tiny. "Yeah, Princess. Am I going to be okay?" Marcus looked down at her. This little girl who had named her stuffed bear after him. This child who had looked into his eyes and seen kindness instead of fear. "You're going to be just fine, I promise." He placed her carefully in the back seat. Sarah climbed in beside her. Lucas scrambled into the front. Marcus drove faster than he should have. The truck's tires slipped on the ice, but he kept control. His hands were steady on the wheel, his eyes fixed on the road. "Almost there, Princess. You're doing so good." "Uncle Bear." "Yeah. Will you stay with me at the hospital?" Marcus's throat tightened. "I'm not going anywhere, Emma. I'll be right there the whole time." They reached the hospital in 8 minutes. Marcus carried Emma through the emergency room doors, Sarah and Lucas right behind him. "I need help," his voice boomed through the waiting room. "This child has a broken arm." Nurses rushed forward. A gurney appeared. Emma was lifted from his arms and wheeled away. Sarah tried to follow, but a nurse stopped her. "Ma'am, we need you to fill out some paperwork." "My daughter. She's in good hands. The doctors are with her now." Sarah's legs gave out. Marcus caught her before she hit the floor. "I've got you. Come on. Sit down." He guided her to a chair. Lucas pressed against her side, trembling. "Is Emma going to be okay?" Lucas asked. "She's going to be fine, little man." Marcus knelt in front of him. "The doctors here are the best. They'll fix her arm and she'll be good as new." "Promise. Promise." The paperwork took forever. Sarah's hands shook so badly she could barely write. Marcus stood beside her, a solid presence answering questions she couldn't. "Insurance?" the receptionist asked. Sarah's face crumpled. I can't afford." "I've got it." Marcus pulled out his wallet. "Sir, you're not—" "I'm her uncle." The lie came easily. "Put it on my card." The receptionist looked between them, then shrugged. "Credit card." Marcus handed it over. They waited for an hour, then 2. Lucas fell asleep in his mother's lap. Marcus sat beside them, silent but present. Finally, a doctor appeared. Mrs. Mitchell. Sarah jumped to her feet, almost dropping Lucas. Yes, is she okay? Is Emma okay? The doctor smiled. She's fine. It's a clean break, which means it'll heal perfectly. We've put a cast on it. She's asking for you. Sarah nearly collapsed with relief. Can I see her? Right this way. She turned to Marcus. Will you? Go. I'll stay with Lucas. Sarah followed the doctor down the hallway. Marcus looked at the sleeping boy in his arms. 6 years old. So small. So fragile. You're safe, little man, he whispered. You're all safe now. When Sarah reached Emma's room, her daughter was sitting up in bed, a bright purple cast on her arm. Mommy, look. The doctor let me pick the color. Sarah rushed to her and pulled her into a gentle hug, careful of the arm. You scared me so much. I'm sorry, Mommy. I just wanted to fix the star. I know, baby. I know. Mommy, yes. Uncle Bear stayed, just like he promised. Sarah pulled back and looked at her daughter. This brave little girl who had been through so much and still found reasons to smile. Yes, baby, he stayed. I think he's family now, Mommy. Our family. Sarah's heart cracked open. I think you might be right. Can we keep him? Sarah laughed through her tears. People aren't pets, sweetheart. I know, but can we keep him anyway? Sarah thought about everything Marcus had done. The meal at the diner, the confrontation with Pete, the presents under the tree, the drive to the hospital with her daughter in his arms. Yeah, baby, she whispered. I think we can keep him. An hour later, Emma was released with instructions to rest and follow up in a week. When they returned to the waiting room, Marcus was where Sarah had left him. Lucas was awake now, sitting on his lap, listening to a story. And then the dragon said, I'm not scary, I'm just misunderstood. Did the knight fight him? No, the knight became his friend, because he realized that sometimes the things that look the scariest are actually the ones that need the most love. Lucas looked up at Marcus with wide eyes. Like you, Marcus's face softened. Yeah, little man, like me. Sarah watched them from the doorway. This massive, scarred biker telling stories to her son, her daughter clutching her arm with the purple cast, her broken little family somehow becoming whole again. Ready to go home? Marcus asked. Home. The word hit Sarah differently than it ever had before. Yeah, she said. We're ready. They walked out of the hospital together. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Emma held Sarah's hand. Lucas held Marcus's, and for the first time in years, Sarah Mitchell felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Marcus drove them back to the motel in silence. Emma had fallen asleep against Sarah's shoulder, her purple cast resting on her mother's lap. Lucas sat in the front seat, staring out the window at the passing lights. Uncle Bear. Yeah, little man. Are you going to leave now? The question hit Marcus harder than he expected. He glanced at the boy's face in the rearview mirror and saw fear there. Real fear. Why would you ask that? People always leave. Lucas's voice was small. Daddy left. Then we had to leave our house. Then we had to leave our school. Everyone always leaves. Marcus pulled the truck into the motel parking lot and stopped. He turned to face Lucas directly. I'm not everyone. But listen to me. Marcus's voice was firm but gentle. I don't make promises I can't keep. So when I tell you I'm not going anywhere, I mean it. But Lucas studied his face. Really? You promise? I promise. A tiny smile broke through the fear on Lucas's face. Okay. Sarah had been listening. When Marcus looked at her, she mouthed 2 words. Thank you. He helped them inside. Emma woke just long enough to stumble to the bed before collapsing again. Lucas crawled in beside his sister, still holding her good hand. Sarah stood in the middle of the room, suddenly lost. You should sleep too, Marcus said. It's been a long day. I can't. My mind won't stop. Then talk to me. She looked at him. About what? Anything, everything. Whatever's keeping you awake. Sarah sat down on the edge of the bed, careful not to disturb the children. Marcus took the chair across from her. I keep thinking about what happens next, she said quietly. Tomorrow, next week, next month. The job at the hardware store. Making sure Emma heals properly. Finding a better school for the kids. Those are good things to think about. But they're also terrifying. She looked down at her hands. For so long I was just surviving. Day to day, hour to hour. I didn't let myself think about the future because there wasn't one. And now there might be, and that scares me more than anything. Marcus leaned forward. Why? Because hope is dangerous. Sarah's voice cracked. Every time I let myself hope, something takes it away. The job that was supposed to save us gone. The apartment we were supposed to get gone. The father who was supposed to stay. She stopped. Her jaw tightened. Gone, Marcus finished. Gone. They sat in silence for a moment. Tell me about him, Marcus said. Who, the kid's father? Yeah. Sarah let out a bitter laugh. What's there to tell? We were high school sweethearts. Got married at 19, had the twins at 23. He left when they were 2. Why? Because being a father was harder than he expected. Because bills were real and dreams weren't. Because... Her voice hardened. Because he was a coward. Have the kids seen him since? Once, 3 years ago. He showed up on Lucas's birthday, promised he'd changed, stayed for 2 hours, and disappeared again. Sarah wiped her eyes angrily. Emma cried for a week. Lucas stopped talking for a month. Marcus felt his hands curl into fists. Where is he now? I don't know. I don't care. Does he pay child support? He's supposed to. He doesn't. Have you tried? I've tried everything. Sarah's voice rose. Lawyers, courts, collection agencies. He moves every 6 months, changes jobs, changes states. He's a ghost who doesn't want to be found. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Give me his name. Sarah looked up sharply. What? His name, and any information you have. Why? Because I have friends who are very good at finding people who don't want to be found. Marcus, I don't want him back. I don't want anything from him. This isn't about wanting him back. This is about those kids deserving what they're owed. Marcus's voice hardened. He made them. He owes them. And I don't care how many states he hides in, he's going to pay. Sarah stared at him. You'd really do that? I'd do a lot more than that. Something passed between them, an understanding, a connection that went deeper than words. His name is David, Sarah said quietly. David Mitchell. Last I heard, he was somewhere in Texas. That's enough. Marcus pulled out his phone and typed a message. Sarah watched him, her heart pounding. What happens now? Now you sleep. Tomorrow you call Harold Jenkins and take that job, and you let me handle the rest. I don't like not being in control. I know. Marcus stood. But sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let someone else help carry the weight. He moved toward the door. Marcus, he turned. Will you... Sarah hesitated. Will you come back tomorrow? I'll be here when you wake up. He closed the door behind him. Sarah sat alone in the quiet room, listening to her children breathe. For the first time in 5 years, she didn't feel completely alone. And somehow that was the most terrifying thing of all. The next morning came faster than Sarah expected. She woke to sunlight streaming through the thin curtains and the sound of Emma's voice. "Mommy, there's donuts." Sarah bolted upright. "What?" Lucas was already at the small table, his face covered in powdered sugar. "Uncle Bear brought them, and orange juice and coffee for you." Marcus sat in the corner chair, a cup of coffee in his massive hands. He shrugged when Sarah looked at him. "Kids need breakfast. You were supposed to go home. I told you I'd be here when you woke up." Emma bounced over to the bed, her cast held carefully against her chest. "Mommy, Uncle Bear said he's going to teach me how to ride a motorcycle when I'm bigger, and he said Lucas can learn too. And he said, 'Slow down, baby.'" Sarah ran a hand through her tangled hair. "How long have you all been awake?" "Hours," Lucas said through a mouthful of donut. "Uncle Bear told us stories about dragons again." Sarah looked at Marcus. "You've been telling them dragon stories. They like dragons." "I like dragons too," Emma announced. "Uncle Bear says dragons are just misunderstood. Like him." Something in Sarah's chest tightened. This man, this giant, scarred, tattooed biker, was sitting in her motel room at 7 in the morning, telling her children stories about misunderstood dragons. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For everything." "Don't thank me yet. You've got a phone call to make." Sarah's stomach flipped. The hardware store. Harold Jenkins. Right. The job. The job. She found her phone and stared at it. Her hands were shaking again. What if he changed his mind? What if the offer wasn't real? What if you stop thinking and start dialing? Marcus raised an eyebrow. The worst he can say is no, and if he says no, we find something else. We. Sarah took a deep breath and dialed. It rang twice. "Jenkins Hardware, this is Harold." "Mr. Jenkins, this is Sarah Mitchell. We met at the diner on Christmas Eve." A pause. Then warmth flooded through the line. "Sarah, I was hoping you'd call. How are the kids?" "They're good. Emma broke her arm, but she's okay now." "Broke her arm on Christmas? That's terrible." "It's been quite a holiday." Harold laughed. "I imagine so. Listen, I meant what I said. The job is yours if you want it. 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. $12 an hour to start with a raise after 90 days. Benefits after 6 months. Sarah's knees went weak. She sat down hard on the bed. "Are you still there?" Harold asked. "Yes. Yes, I'm here." Her voice shook. "Mr. Jenkins, I don't know what to say." "Say you'll start Monday?" "I'll start Monday?" "Good. Come in at 7:30, and I'll show you around." Harold paused. "And Sarah, you're going to be fine. I can tell." "Thank you. Thank you so much." She hung up and burst into tears. Emma and Lucas rushed to her side. "Mommy, what's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, babies." Sarah pulled them close. "Everything's right. For the first time in so long, everything's right." Marcus watched the three of them hold each other. Something old and wounded shifted inside his chest. This, he thought. This is what family looks like. His phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his expression changed. "I need to step outside for a minute." Sarah looked up, catching the shift in his demeanor. "Is everything okay?" "Yeah, just club business." He slipped out the door before she could ask more. Outside, he answered the call. "Talk to me, Richie." "We found him." Marcus's grip tightened on the phone. "David Mitchell. Yeah, he's in Austin, working at a car dealership, living in an apartment with some woman named Crystal." "You're sure? Positive, Tommy's brother works down there. Got eyes on him this morning. Marcus was silent for a long moment. Bear. What do you want us to do? Nothing yet. Just keep watching. I need to think about this. Think about what the guy abandoned his kids. He owes them thousands. I said I need to think. Marcus's voice hardened. This isn't about revenge, Richie. This is about those kids getting what they deserve. And what about what he deserves? Marcus looked through the motel window. He could see Sarah wiping her eyes, smiling at her children. Emma was showing Lucas her cast, letting him draw on it with a marker. What he deserves and what's right aren't always the same thing. Getting philosophical on me, Bear? Maybe I'm just getting old. Richie laughed. You've been old since I met you. Anything else? Yeah, find out how much child support he owes. Every cent. Will do. I'll call you tonight. The line went dead. Marcus stood in the parking lot, his breath forming clouds in the cold morning air. He had a decision to make. A decision that could change everything. He could track David Mitchell down. He could make him pay literally and figuratively. He could show up at that car dealership with his brothers and remind David exactly what happens to men who abandon their children. Part of him wanted to. But another part, the part that had been growing stronger since Christmas Eve, wanted something different. He wanted to be the man Emma saw when she looked at him. The man with kind eyes. The man who told stories about misunderstood dragons. That man didn't solve problems with violence. That man found another way. Marcus walked back inside. Sarah was helping Emma get dressed, working carefully around the cast. Lucas was building something with his new blocks. Everything okay? Sarah asked without looking up. Yeah, just checking in with my brothers. Do you need to go? No. Marcus sat back down in the corner chair. I'm right where I need to be. The week that followed was the strangest of Sarah's life. She started her job at the hardware store on Monday. Harold turned out to be exactly as kind as he'd seemed patient, encouraging, willing to explain things twice without frustration. Marcus appeared every morning like clockwork. He drove the kids to school, a small elementary 3 blocks from the motel, while Sarah worked. He picked them up in the afternoon and helped with homework. You don't have to do this, Sarah told him on Wednesday night. I know. Then why? Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Do you know what I did before all this, before the diner? No. I sat alone in a house that's too big for one person. I worked on bikes that don't need fixing. I watched TV shows I don't remember. He shook his head. I had money and time and nothing to spend either one on. And now I have a reason to wake up. Sarah didn't know what to say to that. On Thursday, she came home from work to find Marcus teaching Lucas how to change a tire. You loosen it first, but not all the way, Marcus explained. Then you jack up the car, then you finish loosening. Why can't you loosen it all the way first? Because the wheel will spin. You need the ground to hold it steady. Lucas's face was scrunched in concentration. That's smart. It's physics. What's physics? It's how the world works. Marcus ruffled his hair. And now you know something most adults don't. Sarah watched from the doorway, her heart swelling. This man was teaching her son how to change a tire, how to be self-sufficient, how to be a man. All the things David should have taught him. All the things David never stayed long enough to teach. On Friday, everything changed. Sarah was at work restocking shelves when Harold approached her with a strange expression. Sarah, there's someone here to see you. Who? He says he's your husband. The world stopped spinning. Sarah turned slowly. Standing at the front counter, hands in his pockets, looking exactly the same as he had 5 years ago, was David Mitchell. Hey, Sarah. He smiled that smile, the one that used to make her heart race. Now it made her stomach turn. Surprise! Sarah couldn't move, couldn't breathe. What are you doing here? I heard about what happened. The diner. Christmas Eve. Some biker helping you out. David took a step closer. I figured it was time I came back. Stepped up. Did the right thing. You figured that 5 years too late. I know I messed up. But I'm different now, Sarah. I've changed. Sarah's hands started shaking. Not with fear. With rage. Changed, you disappeared. You left us with nothing. You haven't paid child support in 3 years. And now you just show up, I want to see my kids. No. They're my children too. They don't know who you are. Lucas was 2 when you left. He doesn't remember your face. David flinched. Good. I want to make it right, he said quietly. I want to be their father. You had that chance. You threw it away. Sarah, please, get out. If you'd just let me explain, I said get out. The store went silent. Every customer turned to stare. Harold stepped forward. Sir, I think you should leave. David's expression hardened. This is between me and my wife. Ex-wife. Sarah's voice was ice. I stopped being your wife the day you walked out that door. Sarah, if you come near me or my children again, I will call the police. And then I'll call someone much worse than the police. David's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? It means I have friends now. Real friends. The kind who don't disappear when things get hard. For a moment, something ugly flickered across David's face. Then it was gone, replaced by that same smooth smile. Fine, I'll go. But this isn't over, Sarah. I have rights. You have nothing. He walked out the door. Sarah watched until his car disappeared down the street. Then her legs gave out. Harold caught her before she hit the floor. Easy, easy. Let's get you to the back. He helped her to a chair in the stockroom. Her whole body was trembling. Who was that? Harold asked gently. My ex-husband. The father of my children. The man who abandoned us. Does he have custody rights? I don't know. I never filed for full custody because I never thought he'd come back. Harold's face was grave. Sarah, you need to talk to a lawyer. I can't afford a lawyer. We'll figure it out, one thing at a time. Sarah pressed her hands to her face. Her mind was racing. David was here. After 5 years. He wanted to see the kids. He wanted back in. And she had no legal protection to stop him. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. Everything okay? You haven't answered my calls. She hadn't even heard her phone ring. David is here. He found us. The response came immediately. On my way. 10 minutes later, Marcus walked through the hardware store doors. Sarah had never been so relieved to see another human being in her life. Where is he? Marcus's voice was low and dangerous. Gone. For now. What did he say? He wants to see the kids. He said he has rights. Marcus's jaw tightened. Does he? I don't know. I was so relieved when he left that I just tried to move forward. I didn't think about custody or court or... Okay. Marcus took her hands. Breathe. We're going to figure this out. How? I know a lawyer. A good one. He helps families who can't afford help. Marcus, you're not alone in this. Do you understand whatever happens, you're not alone? Sarah looked into his eyes. This man who had been a stranger 3 days ago. This man who had become her rock in less than a week. Why? She whispered. Why do you care so much? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Because those kids look at me like I'm a hero. And I'm not. I've never been anything close. But for the first time in my life, I want to be the man they think I am. Sarah's tears fell freely now. And because, Marcus hesitated, because you make me feel like 40 years of anger weren't wasted. Like maybe they were just leading me here. To you. To them. The world shrank to the space between them. Marcus, I know. He stepped back. I know it's too fast. I know you barely know me. But I'm not going anywhere, Sarah. Not now, not ever. He turned and walked toward the door. Where are you going? To make some calls, and then to pick up your kids from school. He looked back at her. When you get home tonight, we're going to make a plan. Together. He was gone before she could respond. Sarah sat in the empty stockroom, her heart pounding. David was back. Marcus wasn't leaving, and somewhere between those two facts, her entire future hung in the balance. That night after the kids were asleep, Sarah and Marcus sat in the parking lot of the motel. The cold air bit at their faces, but neither of them wanted to go inside. There was too much to say. The lawyer's name is Frank Patterson, Marcus said. I called him this afternoon. He's going to look into David's legal standing. And if David has rights, then we fight for supervised visitation. Limited contact. We protect those kids from being hurt again. Can we do that? We can try. Sarah stared up at the stars. I used to dream about David coming back. When he first left, I used to lie awake and imagine him walking through the door, apologizing, being the man he promised to be. And now I feel nothing but fear. She turned to Marcus. He's going to try to take them from me. I can feel it. He can try. He won't succeed. How do you know? Because I won't let him. Marcus's voice was steel. Because I've spent 40 years being angry at the world, and now I have something worth protecting. And I will burn this whole state down before I let anyone take those kids from you. Sarah felt something shift inside her. Something that had been frozen for years finally started to thaw. Marcus, I need to tell you something. What? I'm scared. Not just of David. Of you. His expression flickered. Of me. Of how fast this is happening. Of how much I already depend on you. Of what happens if you wake up one day and decide this is too much. That we're too much. Marcus took her hand. His fingers were rough, calloused, warm. I'm not him, Sarah. I know you're not. But I've been wrong before. So have I. He squeezed her hand. Every relationship I've ever had failed because I put the club first. Because I couldn't let anyone in. Because I was so busy being angry at the past that I forgot to live in the present. What's different now? You. His eyes found hers. Those kids. This feeling that maybe I've been waiting my whole life for something exactly like this. Sarah's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it. I'm not asking for anything, Marcus said quietly. I'm just asking you to let me be here. To let me help. To let me be whatever you need me to be. And if I need you to be more than that. The question hung in the air between them. Marcus's hand tightened around hers. Then I'll be more. Sarah leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his. They stayed like that for a long moment, breathing the same air, sharing the same warmth. My kids adore you, she whispered. I adore them. I think I might be falling for you. I know I'm falling for you. Sarah pulled back and looked at him. Really looked at him. The scars, the tattoos, the hard lines of a hard life, and underneath all of it, the kindest eyes she'd ever seen. This is crazy, she said. Completely crazy. We've known each other for 5 days. I know. My ex-husband just showed up out of nowhere. I know. Everything is falling apart. Not everything. Marcus reached up and touched her face. Some things are just starting to come together. Sarah closed her eyes. For the first time in 5 years, she let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. But neither of them knew that David Mitchell was parked across the street, watching them from the shadows. And what he was planning would put everything they'd built in danger. David made his move 3 days later. Sarah was at work when her phone rang. The school's number flashed on the screen. Her blood turned to ice before she even answered. Mrs. Mitchell, this is Principal Henderson. I'm calling about your children. What happened? Are they okay? They're fine. But there's a situation. A man came to the school claiming to be their father. He tried to sign them out for early dismissal. Sarah's legs buckled. She grabbed the counter to stay upright. Where are my children now? They're in my office, safe. We didn't release them because his name isn't on the approved list. But Mrs. Mitchell, he became quite aggressive. We had to call the police. I'm on my way. Sarah ran. She didn't ask Harold for permission. She didn't grab her coat. She just ran. The school was 8 blocks away. She covered the distance in 6 minutes, her lungs burning, her heart slamming against her ribs. When she burst through the front doors, she saw David immediately. He was standing in the hallway with 2 police officers, his hands raised in a gesture of false surrender. That same smile on his face. That same charming manipulation she'd fallen for a decade ago. Sarah. He turned toward her. Tell them who I am. Tell them I'm just trying to see my kids. Sarah ignored him. She pushed past the officers and ran toward the principal's office. Emma and Lucas were sitting on a small couch inside. The moment they saw her, they launched themselves into her arms. Mommy. Emma was crying. There was a man. He said he was our daddy. But we don't know him. We don't know him. I know, baby. I know. Sarah held them tight. You're safe now. I'm here. Lucas pressed his face into her shoulder. He scared us, Mommy. He kept saying we had to go with him. He said you told him to pick us up. I would never, never. Do you understand? I would never send anyone you don't know. Principal Henderson stood nearby, her face grave. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm so sorry. We followed protocol, but you did the right thing. Sarah looked up at her. Thank you. Thank you for protecting them. One of the police officers appeared in the doorway. Ma'am, we need to ask you some questions about the man in the hallway. His name is David Mitchell. He's their biological father. We've been separated for 5 years. He has no custody rights. He abandoned us and hasn't paid child support in 3 years. The officer's expression shifted. Do you have documentation of that? I have everything. Bank statements, court orders, everything he ignored. Would you be willing to press charges for attempted kidnapping? Sarah's heart stopped. Kidnapping. Her own children's father charged with trying to kidnap them. Yes. The word came out stronger than she expected. Yes, I want to press charges. We'll need you to come to the station and file a report. I'm not leaving my children. They can come too. We have a family waiting area. Sarah nodded. She turned to gather Emma and Lucas when Marcus appeared in the doorway. His face was thunderous. His hands were clenched into fists. Behind him, Richie and Tommy stood like sentinels. Where is he? Marcus's voice was barely controlled fury. The police have him. Good. Marcus looked at the children. His expression immediately softened. Hey, you two. You okay? Emma ran to him and wrapped her arms around his waist. Uncle Bear, the bad man tried to take us. I know, Princess. I know. Marcus dropped to one knee and pulled both children close. But nobody's going to take you anywhere. I promise. I'll make sure of that. Lucas looked up at him with tear-stained cheeks. Are you going to beat him up? No, little man. I'm going to let the police handle it, because that's the right way. And I want to show you that there's always a right way even when you're angry. Sarah watched Marcus hold her children. This man who could have stormed in and destroyed David with his bare hands. This man who chose gentleness instead. She loved him. The realization hit her like a wave, sudden, overwhelming, undeniable. She loved him. At the police station, Sarah filed a report that took 2 hours. She documented everything. The abandonment, the missed payments, the emotional damage to her children, the attempted pickup without authorization. The detective who took her statement was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Mrs. Mitchell, based on what you've told me, you have grounds for a restraining order. I strongly recommend you pursue one. How long will that take? We can file for an emergency order today. That would take effect immediately. A permanent order would require a hearing. Do it. File everything. Marcus sat beside her the entire time. He didn't speak. He didn't interfere. He was simply there, a solid presence that kept her anchored when everything else felt like it was spinning out of control. When they finally left the station, it was dark outside. Emma and Lucas were exhausted. They'd fallen asleep in the waiting room, curled up together on plastic chairs. Marcus carried Lucas. Sarah carried Emma. Take them back to the motel, Marcus said quietly. I'll follow in my truck. What about David? He's in custody. They're holding him overnight for attempted kidnapping and violation of a court order. He won't be able to post bail until tomorrow at the earliest. Sarah felt some of the tension drain from her body. And then what? Then we have a hearing, and we make sure he never comes near those kids again. They drove back to the motel in separate vehicles. Sarah kept glancing in her rearview mirror, making sure Marcus was still behind her, making sure she wasn't alone. When they arrived, Pete Garrison was standing in the parking lot. Sarah's stomach dropped. What now? But Pete's face wasn't angry. It was concerned. I heard what happened, he said as she stepped out of the car. Word travels fast in a small town. Pete, I can't deal with. I'm not here to cause problems. Pete held up his hands. I'm here to help. I called a friend of mine. He's a lawyer, family law, one of the best in the county. Sarah stared at him. What? His name is Robert Chen. He owes me a favor from way back. He's agreed to take your case pro bono. Pro bono. Free of charge. He'll handle everything. The restraining order, the custody hearing, whatever you need. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Pete, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just let people help you. Pete's voice cracked. I spent too many years pushing people away, thinking I had to handle everything alone. Don't make the same mistake I did. Marcus stepped up beside Sarah. Thank you, Pete. This means more than you know. Yeah, well, Pete shuffled his feet awkwardly. That biker speech you gave me on Christmas Eve, about choosing who we want to be, it stuck with me. He looked at Sarah. You and those kids deserve to be safe. I'm just doing my small part to make that happen. He walked away before Sarah could respond. She stood in the parking lot, her sleeping daughter in her arms, and felt something break open inside her. For so long she had believed she was alone. That the world was cold and indifferent, that nobody cared about a struggling single mother and her 2 children. She had been wrong. The world was full of people waiting to help. She had just been too afraid to let them. The hearing came 2 weeks later. Sarah stood in the courthouse hallway, her hands trembling. Robert Chen, the lawyer. Pete had recommended, stood beside her, reviewing his notes. "Remember what we discussed," Robert said calmly. "Answer only what you're asked. Stay composed. Let David's own behavior speak for itself." "What if the judge doesn't believe me?" "Sarah, look at me." Robert waited until she met his eyes. "You have documentation. You have witnesses. You have a police report. The evidence is overwhelming. David doesn't have a leg to stand on." Marcus appeared at her side. He was wearing a suit, the first time she'd ever seen him out of leather. He looked uncomfortable, but determined. "You clean up nice," she said weakly. "This is the first time I've worn this thing in 15 years. I think it shrank." Despite everything, Sarah laughed. A real laugh that released some of the pressure building in her chest. "Thank you for being here." "Wouldn't be anywhere else." The courtroom doors opened. Sarah walked in and took her seat at the plaintiff's table. David sat across the aisle, looking disheveled and defeated. His court-appointed lawyer kept whispering to him urgently. The judge entered. Everyone rose. "Be seated." Judge Patricia Morrison was a stern woman in her 60s, known for her no-tolerance approach to deadbeat parents. Sarah couldn't have asked for a better draw. "We're here today for case number 2024 FC0847, Mitchell versus Mitchell, petition for full custody and a permanent restraining order." Judge Morrison looked over her glasses. "Let's begin." Robert presented the case methodically. 3 years of unpaid child support. Total owed $47,000. Complete abandonment with no contact for 5 years. Attempted unauthorized pickup from school resulting in criminal charges. Documented emotional trauma to the children. Each piece of evidence landed like a hammer blow. Sarah watched David's face grow paler with each revelation. When it was David's turn to speak, his lawyer put him on the stand. "Mr. Mitchell, can you explain why you left your family 5 years ago?" David cleared his throat. "I was young, stupid. I made mistakes. But I've changed. I want to be a father to my children." "And why did you attempt to pick them up from school without authorization?" "I just wanted to see them. I didn't know I needed permission. It was a misunderstanding." Judge Morrison leaned forward. "Mr. Mitchell, are you aware that your name was never placed on the approved pickup list?" I didn't know that." "And are you aware that you owe nearly $50,000 in court-ordered child support?" David's facade cracked. "I'm between jobs right now. Times have been hard, but I'm trying to—" "Mr. Mitchell." The judge's voice cut like a blade. "Times have been hard for everyone, but most people don't abandon their children for 5 years and then show up demanding rights they never earned." "Your Honor, I've heard enough." Judge Morrison turned to Sarah. "Mrs. Mitchell, would you like to make a statement?" Sarah stood on shaking legs. She hadn't prepared anything. She didn't know what to say. But when she opened her mouth, the words came from somewhere deep inside. "Your Honor, when David left, Emma was 2 years old. Lucas was 1. They were babies. They needed a father, and he walked away without looking back." Her voice grew stronger. "For 5 years I worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3. I cleaned houses during the day and office buildings at night. I went without food so my children could eat. I wore the same clothes for years so they could have new shoes." She looked directly at David. "And through all of that, you were somewhere else, living your life, finding new girlfriends, moving to new cities. While I was drowning, you were swimming away." Tears streamed down her face, but she didn't wipe them. "My children don't know who you are. When you showed up at their school, they were terrified. Emma had nightmares for a week. Lucas asked me if the bad man was going to come back." Her voice broke. "You don't get to call yourself their father? A father shows up. A father stays, a father puts his children first even when it's hard. You did none of those things. She took a breath. I'm not asking for revenge. I'm asking for protection. I'm asking this court to give my children the safety and stability they deserve. The stability you never provided. She sat down. The courtroom was silent. Judge Morrison removed her glasses and rubbed her eyes. In my 30 years on the bench, I've seen many custody cases. Most of them involve two parents who, despite their differences, genuinely love their children. She looked at David. This is not one of those cases. David's face went white. Mr. Mitchell, you abandoned your family. You ignored court orders. You failed to provide even basic financial support. And when you finally decided to reappear, you did so in a way that traumatized the very children you claim to love. She put her glasses back on. I am granting Mrs. Mitchell full and permanent custody of both minor children. I am also granting a permanent restraining order requiring Mr. Mitchell to stay at least 500 feet from Mrs. Mitchell, her children, their home, and their school. David's lawyer stood. Your Honor, we object. Sit down. The judge's voice left no room for argument. Additionally, I am ordering immediate wage garnishment for the $47,000 in unpaid child support plus interest. Mr. Mitchell, you will pay what you owe. The state will make sure of it. She banged her gavel. This hearing is adjourned. Sarah couldn't move. She had won. After everything, the fear, the struggle, the years of doing it all alone, she had won. Robert shook her hand. Congratulations, Sarah. You did it. We did it. She turned to find Marcus. He was standing by the door, tears streaming down his face, this massive scarred biker weeping openly in a public courtroom. Sarah ran to him. She threw her arms around his neck and held on like she was drowning and he was air. It's over, she whispered. It's finally over. No. Marcus pulled back and looked into her eyes. It's just beginning. He kissed her, right there in the courthouse hallway in front of Robert and the bailiffs, and anyone else who happened to be watching. Marcus Thompson kissed Sarah Mitchell. And she kissed him back. That night they celebrated. Not at a fancy restaurant or an expensive venue. They celebrated at the motel in the parking lot with burgers from the diner and cupcakes from the grocery store. Marcus's brothers came. Pete Garrison came. Harold Jenkins came with his wife. Even Donna the waitress from Christmas Eve showed up with a homemade pie. Emma and Lucas ran between the adults, high on sugar and excitement. Their laughter echoed through the cold night air like music. Sarah stood off to the side watching it all. 3 weeks ago, she had walked into a diner with $23 and 2 hungry children. Now she had a job, a home, a community, a family, and a man who loved her. Marcus appeared beside her. What are you thinking about? Everything, nothing. How different my life is from what I imagined. Different bad or different good, different terrifying. She turned to face him. I keep waiting for something to go wrong, for the other shoe to drop, for this to all fall apart. It might. Marcus took her hand. Life doesn't come with guarantees, but that's not what matters. Then what matters? This. He gestured at the gathering around them. These people, this moment, the choice to show up every day and try. Emma ran over and grabbed Marcus's other hand. Uncle Bear Lucas says you promised to teach him to ride a motorcycle, but you have to teach me first because I'm older. Is that so? Marcus raised an eyebrow. I don't remember saying anything about first. But I am older, by 11 months, still older. Marcus laughed, a deep, genuine sound that Sarah had never heard from him before. It transformed his whole face. Tell you what, he said. When you're both 16, I'll teach you at the same time. Fair. That's so far away, Lucas complained. It'll go faster than you think. Marcus knelt down to their level. But in the meantime, there's a lot I can teach you. How to change a tire. How to fix a leaky faucet. How to stand up for yourself when someone's being a bully. Emma's eyes lit up. Can you teach us to be brave like you? Marcus's throat tightened. Princess, you're already brave. Both of you. You've been brave your whole lives. But you're braver. No. Marcus shook his head. The bravest person I know is your mother. She fought for you every single day when the whole world was against her. That's real bravery. Emma looked at Sarah with new eyes. Mommy, is that true? Sarah knelt beside Marcus. I did what any mother would do. I loved you. That's not brave. That's just love. But Uncle Bear said, Uncle Bear is right about a lot of things. Sarah smiled at Marcus. But he's wrong about this. Love and bravery aren't different things. They're the same thing. When you love someone, you become brave. When you're brave, you learn to love. Lucas tugged at Marcus's sleeve. Does that mean you love us? The question hung in the air. Marcus looked at Sarah. She nodded. Yeah, little man. His voice was thick. I love you. Both of you. And your mom. Forever, forever. Emma threw her arms around Marcus's neck. Lucas piled on from the other side. Sarah wrapped her arms around all three of them. They stayed like that for a long moment, four people who had found each other by accident and chosen each other on purpose. Richie's voice cut through the moment. Hey, Bear, you gonna come eat or just stand there hugging all night? Marcus laughed. Coming. He stood lifting both children with him, one in each arm. They squealed with delight. Let's go eat, he said. We've got a lot to celebrate. The party went on until midnight. By the time the last guest left, Emma and Lucas were sound asleep in their bed. Sarah stood in the doorway of the motel room, watching them breathe. Marcus came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. They're going to be okay, he said quietly. I know. Sarah leaned back into him. For the first time in their lives, I really believe that. And you, are you going to be okay? Sarah turned to face him. I already am. She kissed him softly. Stay tonight, she whispered. Not for anything else. Just stay. I don't want to be alone anymore. You're never alone anymore. He held her all night. Not with passion, not yet. Just with presence, the simple act of being there when someone needs you to be. Sarah fell asleep, listening to his heartbeat, and for the first time in 5 years, she didn't dream about drowning. 1 year later, Sarah stood in the doorway of a small house on Maple Street. Her house. Their house. The one Marcus had helped her buy with the money from David's garnished wages and her steady income from the hardware store. Emma burst past her, running toward the backyard. Mommy, the swing set is here. Lucas followed close behind. Uncle Bear put it up while we were at school. Sarah smiled and walked outside. Marcus was there, covered in dirt and sweat, tightening the last bolt on a brand new swing set. You didn't have to do this, she said. I wanted to. He stood and wiped his forehead. Every kid deserves a swing set. You spoil them. That's my job. Sarah walked over and wrapped her arms around him. No, your job is to love them. The spoiling is extra credit. He kissed her forehead. Then I'm an overachiever. Emma was already on the swing. Push me, Uncle Bear. Push me higher. In a minute, Princess. Marcus turned to Sarah. I have something to ask you. What? He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Sarah's heart stopped. Marcus, let me talk. He took a breath. 1 year ago, I walked into a diner on Christmas Eve. I was angry at the world, angry at myself, angry at everything that life had taken from me. He opened the box. A simple ring, a small diamond. Perfect. Then I saw you. This woman counting coins under a table pretending she wasn't hungry so her kids could eat. And something inside me cracked open. Tears streamed down Sarah's face. You didn't save me, Sarah. You woke me up. You reminded me that kindness isn't weakness, that asking for help isn't failure, that the hardest thing in the world and the most important is letting someone in. He took her hand. I've never been good at this. At feelings, at words, at any of the things that seem to come naturally to other people. But I know this, I love you. I love Emma. I love Lucas. And I want to spend the rest of my life earning the right to call this family mine. He dropped to one knee. Sarah Mitchell, will you marry me? Sarah couldn't speak. Emma stopped swinging. Lucas ran over to stand beside his sister. Both children watched with wide eyes. Mommy, Emma's voice trembled. What are you going to say? Sarah looked at her daughter, at her son, at this man kneeling in the dirt with a ring in his hand and his whole heart in his eyes. She thought about everything they'd been through, the diner, the bikers, the hospital, David, the courtroom, the nights she spent crying alone, the nights she spent safe in Marcus's arms. She thought about her mother who had told her to never rely on anyone. She thought about David who had proven her mother right. She thought about Marcus who had proven them both wrong. Yes. The word came out as a whisper. Marcus's face broke into the widest smile she had ever seen. Yes, she said again, louder this time. Yes, I'll marry you. He slid the ring onto her finger and pulled her into a kiss that tasted like forever. Emma and Lucas crashed into them from both sides. Does this mean Uncle Bear is going to be our dad? Lucas asked. Marcus knelt down to their level. Only if you want me to be. Emma's face was solemn. We've never had a real dad before. I know. Promise you won't leave like the other one. Marcus took her small hand in his massive one. I promise, no matter what happens, no matter how hard things get, I will never ever leave you. Do you believe me? Emma studied his face for a long moment. Then she smiled. I believe you. She threw her arms around his neck. Lucas joined in. Then Sarah. The four of them held each other in the backyard of their new home, surrounded by evidence of everything they'd built together. And in that moment, Sarah finally understood. Family wasn't about blood. It wasn't about last names or legal documents or shared DNA. Family was about who showed up, who stayed, who chose to love you even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. Family was a choice, and they had all chosen each other. 6 months later, they stood in a small church on the edge of town. Marcus wore a suit for the second time in his life. This time, it fit. Sarah wore a simple white dress that Donna had helped her pick out. Emma was the flower girl. Lucas was the ring bearer. And in the front row, wearing leather cuts and looking completely out of place, sat 5 Hell's Angels. The pastor smiled at the unusual crowd. We are gathered here today to witness the union of Marcus and Sarah, a union that began not with a plan, but with an act of kindness in a diner on Christmas Eve. He looked at the congregation. Marriage is not about perfection. It's about choosing each other every day in good times and bad. It's about building a life together brick by brick, even when the foundation shakes. He turned to Marcus. Marcus, do you take Sarah to be your wife, to love and cherish from this day forward? Marcus looked at Sarah, at the woman who had changed everything. I do. And Sarah, do you take Marcus to be your husband, to love and cherish from this day forward? Sarah thought about the road that had led her here, the pain, the struggle, the miracle of being seen by a stranger who became her everything. I do. Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife. The pastor grinned. You may kiss the bride. Marcus kissed her. The church erupted in applause. Emma and Lucas ran forward and threw their arms around both of them. We're a real family now, Lucas shouted. We were always a real family. Sarah said, tears streaming down her face. Now we just have the paperwork to prove it. Marcus lifted both children into his arms. Who wants cake? Me! They screamed in unison. The reception was held in the diner, the same diner where everything had begun, the same booth where Sarah had counted her last $23, the same table where Marcus had first seen her. Donna served the wedding cake. Pete Garrison gave a toast. Harold Jenkins danced with his wife. And in the corner, 5 Hells Angels sang a terrible off-key rendition of Chapel of Love. Sarah laughed until her sides hurt. At midnight, she and Marcus stepped outside. The snow was falling, just like it had 1 year ago. Just like the night, everything changed. Happy? Marcus asked. Terrified, Sarah admitted, but the good kind of terrified. What does that mean? She turned to face him. It means I finally have something worth losing, and that's the scariest feeling in the world. She took his hand. But it's also the most wonderful. Marcus pulled her close. We're going to be okay, Sarah. How do you know? Because we've already survived the hard part. Everything else is just living. She smiled against his chest. I love you, Marcus Thompson. I love you, Sarah Thompson. She laughed. That's going to take some getting used to. We've got time. They stood there in the falling snow, holding each other, watching the world turn white and clean and new. Behind them, through the diner window, they could see their children dancing with Richie and Tommy. Their friends laughing and talking and celebrating. Their family. Not perfect, not traditional, not anything Sarah had ever imagined, but real. And in the end, real was the only thing that mattered. Because sometimes the best things in life don't come from careful planning or safe choices. Sometimes they come from broken-down cars and Christmas Eve dinners, and strangers who turn into family. Sometimes they come from $23 and a Hell's Angel who stood up when everyone else looked away. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, they come from love, messy, complicated, terrifying love that refuses to let go even when holding on hurts. Sarah Mitchell had spent 30 years believing she was alone. She had spent 30 years believing the world was cold and cruel and indifferent. She had been wrong. The world was full of kindness, full of people waiting to help, full of angels in leather and strangers who became family. All she had to do was open her heart and let them in. And on a snowy Christmas Eve, in a small-town diner, that's exactly what she did. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Share it with someone who needs to hear that kindness still exists in this world. And remember, sometimes the scariest-looking people have the kindest hearts. Sometimes the darkest nights lead to the brightest mornings. And sometimes one small act of compassion can change everything. Thank you for watching. Until next time.